There I was, shirtless and soaked in sweat, right in the middle of my corn harvest when I heard the unmistakable crunch of metal and plastic meeting righteous agricultural vengeance. My 1972 Massey Ferguson tractor had been peacefully parked at the edge of my lot, minding its own business like it had for the past 3 decades. Now it was nose-deep in the crumpled hood of a metallic beige Lexus, steam hissing from its grill like a scorned dragon that had bitten off more than it could chew. Standing beside it with her phone already in hand was her crimson tracksuit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Blonde bob so perfect it looked like it could survive a Category 5 hurricane. HOA clipboard still clutched in her manicured fingers like a holy relic from the Church of Suburban Conformity. She shrieked at a pitch that made the nearby crows abandon their perches. "I am calling the police. You are assaulting the neighborhood with your equipment." I wiped my forehead with a bandana that had seen better days and tried to keep my voice level. "Ma'am," I said slowly, like I was explaining quantum physics to a golden retriever, "you just hit my tractor. My stationary, parked, not moving in any way, shape, or form tractor." She scowled with the intensity of someone who had just been told the country club was out of champagne. It was obstructing the community's aesthetic sight lines. This is a violation of Section 12.3 of the HOA Guidelines regarding visual harmony. And that is when I knew with absolute certainty that this harvest was going to war. My name is Lucas Raburn, and I own 3.2 acres in Marigold Hollow, a development that calls itself semi-rural luxury in all their marketing materials. I call it an HOA prison with a bigger yard and monthly fees that would make your eyes water. I am a third-generation corn farmer who somehow ended up surrounded by vinyl fences that cost more than farm equipment, infinity driveways that look like airport runways, and wine moms who think deer are emotional support fauna that deserve their own Instagram accounts. Everything was relatively quiet for the first 5 years until the HOA crowned Deardra Tillingham as its new president 3 months ago. She wore pearls to board meetings like she was attending a state dinner and once told me with a straight face that hay bales are both a fire hazard and what she called a visual aggression against the neighborhood's carefully curated aesthetic. I tried to keep the peace because I am not looking for trouble. I just want to grow my corn and live my life. But Deardra treated my land like it was a personal insult to her very existence. And when corn season rolled around this year, she snapped harder than a stale pretzel at the bottom of a movie theater seat. First came the passive-aggressive flyers that started appearing in my mailbox like clockwork every Monday morning. Did you know ? Corn can harbor rodents and unapproved vibes. Another one read, agricultural equipment decreases property values by up to 15% according to studies we will not cite. My personal favorite was, the dangers of unauthorized rural energy in suburban spaces. Then came the official citations printed on HOA letterhead with her signature so elaborate it looked like she was signing the Declaration of Independence. Citation number 1 was for unauthorized agricultural activity within view of HOA walking paths. Citation number 2 claimed my tractor noise levels were exceeding suburban decibel standards, which is rich considering the Hendersons run their leaf blower at 7 a.m. every Saturday. Citation number 3, and I am not making this up, was for overt display of barn aesthetics in a non-barn designated zone. She even claimed my scarecrow was inciting bird panic and creating an unsafe environment for the local avian population. I ignored her because surely no reasonable person would take this seriously. That was my first mistake. One morning I walked out to find that someone had stuck reflective safety decals on every single ear of corn within 20 feet of the road. They were those obnoxious neon orange stickers that crossing guards use, and each one had been meticulously placed with what must have been surgical precision. Kyle, the teenager from 2 houses down who helps me during harvest season, said he saw Deardra out there at 5:30 in the morning with a tape measure, a glue stick, and what appeared to be a protractor for measuring angles. But then at exactly 8:43 a.m. on a Thursday that started like any other Thursday, she did the unthinkable. She drove her pristine Lexus directly into my parked tractor with the confidence of someone who thought the laws of physics did not apply to HOA presidents. When the bumper met the rear hitch of my Massey Ferguson, the Lexus folded like a lawn chair at a county fair. The sound was magnificent in its finality. Deardra screamed with the fury of 1,000 suburban warriors that I was weaponizing farm equipment against the sanctity of the neighborhood. She called 911 and told dispatch in a voice dripping with manufactured panic that I had intentionally placed a vehicle of war near public property with malicious intent. The responding officer, Deputy Halloran, arrived with his lights flashing, expecting what sounded like a hostage situation based on her hysterical phone call. Instead, he found me holding a bushel of corn I had just picked, wearing overalls that had seen better decades, while Deardra stomped in circles around her wrecked Lexus like an angry peacock defending its territory. She was demanding he invoke eminent domain over what she called rural encroachment into civilized spaces. She tried to get me arrested for vehicular intimidation, which I am pretty sure is not even a real charge. Deputy Halloran asked in the most deadpan voice I have ever heard from a law enforcement officer, "Ma'am, are you suggesting this man threatened you with a stationary tractor that has clearly not moved since before you arrived based on the dust patterns around the tires?" She replied with complete sincerity, "It was looming. That tractor was looming with aggressive intent. Look at how it is positioned to create maximum psychological distress to passing residents." The deputy laughed. Not a chuckle or a snicker, but a full belly laugh that echoed across my cornfield and probably reached the next county over. Turns out the sheriff's department was already intimately familiar with Deardra Tillingham and her crusade against anything that disturbed her vision of suburban perfection. She had filed over 40 noise complaints in the past 3 months alone. Half of them were against roosters that did not even live in our neighborhood but could apparently be heard from 3 miles away, according to her. The other half were against wind. Not things blowing in the wind, but the actual meteorological phenomenon of moving air. And here is where things got really interesting. The HOA charter, that sacred document Deardra wielded like a weapon, had a loophole bigger than the crater her Lexus left in my gravel. My property, due to its original agricultural zoning from 1968, was completely exempt from all aesthetic compliance codes related to traditional farming practices. That included growing corn wherever I pleased. That included parking tractors wherever was convenient for my agricultural operations. And yes, that even included what Deardra called looming with intent to disturb. Deputy Halloran filed an incident report all right, but it was against her for filing a false police report and wasting department resources. The consequences came swift and they came hard, like a combine harvester through a field of wheat. Deardra was fined $800 for reckless driving after the traffic camera footage showed her accelerating directly into my stationary tractor. She was fined another $1,500 for filing a false police report, with Deputy Halloran personally testifying that she had deliberately misrepresented the situation to emergency services. But the real kicker came from the state, who fined her $3,000 for what they officially termed attempted HOA overreach in violation of agricultural preservation statutes. Her Lexus was towed at her expense, another $450. Her beloved pearls, that triple-strand heirloom she wore to every HOA meeting, snapped during her tantrum and scattered across the gravel like tiny white tears of defeat. At the emergency HOA meeting that was called that very evening, residents voted 47-1 to suspend her presidency pending what the official minutes called psychological recalibration and reassessment of leadership capabilities. The one vote in her favor was her own, and even that seemed half-hearted. A week later, I hosted Cornfest in my front yard just to drive the point home. I rented a professional popcorn machine, set up a scarecrow selfie station with props and signs, and gave free tractor rides to every kid in the neighborhood. Deputy Halloran showed up off duty to judge the corn shucking contest and stayed for the barbecue. Someone, and I never did find out who, brought a piñata shaped remarkably like a beige Lexus, and the kids took turns whacking it with stick until candy exploded everywhere. Deardra now runs a meditation podcast called Silence Over Suburbia that she records from her basement since her Lexus is still sitting in the impound lot accumulating daily storage fees she refuses to pay out of principle. The HOA replaced her with a beekeeper named Marvin who told me corn is the jazz of plants and that my tractor adds character to the neighborhood. He lets me farm in complete peace, and in return, I keep him supplied with fresh corn salsa made from my grandmother's recipe. The last time I saw Deardra, she was standing at her mailbox in a bathrobe at 2 in the afternoon, muttering something about agricultural conspiracies while clutching a certified letter from her insurance company denying her claim for hitting a legally parked farm vehicle. Her face went from red to purple to a shade of white I did not know human skin could achieve when she read that her premiums were being raised by 60% due to her at-fault accident involving what they classified as willful negligence and reckless operation of a motor vehicle.